welcome back. This is the Gal for Kids show, and we were new last month, so this is just our second show out there to the community. And we want to first thank our sponsors, Mr. Jim Wofford of the Wofford Theater and Logan Street Signs and Banners. I can't say that very quickly too many times. So what we are, so that we remind you each and every month what we do, our program trains people from the community, so you out there watching or listening or happen to catch this somewhere, we train you from the community to be the voice of the child. And this is a child that has come into our court system by no fault of their own, either through abuse allegations or neglect allegations through the Department of Child Services. And we come in and we advocate for that child, and we advocate for their best interests, and we do lots of things for that child to bring their matter before the judge. And we'll talk about what lots of those things are as we go through today. With me today, I have Miss Gail Rubisch-Hawkey, and she is one of the volunteers through our program. And she's important today to talk to because we're going to get some information from her about how she owns a business, works full-time, and still has time to do this kind of work for the program, for the community, and for the kids out there in our community. So just so that you understand, just some reminders, we only get involved if there is an open court case. So I get lots of phone calls from people out in our community that says, hey, my grandchild or my niece, nephew, child of my own needs a guardian ad litem. They need an advocate. So how can we get one? And my first question to them is always, is there an open court case right now? Because if there's not, then our program is not that program. So just so that you understand, it has to be an open court case, and then we can hopefully get involved in the case if the judge orders us into that case. If it's an abuse and neglect case, then we are always ordered in if that case is brought before the court. There's always an advocate put into place. There was a law that went into effect back in 2005, I believe, that made it mandatory that every time there was a case for abuse and neglect for every single child, then we had to have an advocate for that child right along with the Department of Child Services, who has caseworkers that are working with the child. Then the legislatures decided they wanted to have a volunteer that comes along and works with every child. So that you can understand, because what our program is hoping to do as we do this each month is to bring this information to you and make sure that you understand that there's lots that you can do to become involved. My name is Shelley Haymaker. I always forget that part because I'm always thanking my sponsors, introducing who I'm with, but I am the director of the Hamilton County Gal CASA program, and we just want to make sure that you understand that this opportunity is out there. So let's talk to Gail a little bit. Miss Gail, welcome. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
She came on the fly. I asked her at the last minute, like I normally do all my guests, because I don't want them to get too nervous and think too much about it. So Miss Gail, tell us about, you own a business.
I do.
What kind of business?
I have Hawkey Associates. I'm affiliated with Farmers Insurance Group, so I have an insurance agency.
Okay.
It is located in Carmel in the scenic, lovely Arts and Design District. So if you're driving around down North Range Line, you will see I'm in a little house there.
Okay.
And I've been there approximately 10 years.
Okay. And you've had that agency for 10 years?
That's correct.
All right. Now, so that the community understands then, this is your business. You work it.
I work it
and
very hard.
How many hours would you think, or would you guesstimate that you work per week at your business?
You don't want to know exactly how many hours, but it's well.
I understand that because I get that.
It's well over a 40-hour week on a weekly basis. So.
Well then, how in the world do you have time to come in and volunteer for our program?
Because it's on my time. So basically, when I make appointments to meet with kids, meet with family members, meet with the schools, it's set up so that I can do it on the time that I arrange in my calendar.
Okay.
So I do it in evenings, I do it on weekends, because a lot of times parents and family members don't have time during the week to do it. So, I was out interviewing a dad on Father's Day. So it's just, you just build it into your schedule and it makes it work.
Wasn't what he had planned for Father's Day, was it, Gail?
You know, I'm a nice guest.
But you're not. All right, so you have found that since you're able to schedule things on your time, that even though you work full time, you still have, I mean, you weren't working every minute of every day.
No.
So you said, hey, I want to take some time out. So what prompted you to get involved in this particular program?
I have known about the GAL program or the CASA program for many years. And back when I was working in Indianapolis, one of my colleagues was a CASA volunteer.
Okay.
And it always struck me as something that I wanted to do. Although at the time I had 3 kids and taking care of my elderly father, so working full-time, I just didn't have enough hours in the day to go, let me do this volunteer task also.
Okay.
So it was sort of on my bucket list to get involved.
So when did you get back and decide that now was the time?
I started looking at, I've been a volunteer for a year.
Well, I was going to ask that.
I
When you went through
sorry.
training.
Sorry. So I've been doing this for about a year. I think it was about 6 months. I had to kind of find out where the program was, get involved, put on the waiting list for the training. And so that's kind of where
So you went through training then in 2014?
that would be
Okay.
mathematically correct.
Okay. And because we do, typically what we do so far in the program is we try to offer trainings at least twice a year. And the trainings are over 30 hours per time, and they usually span across a 3-week time. And during the training, we also involve a lot of other people, which is part of the problem as to why we offer it just a couple of times a year. We are looking for 2016, possibly offer it 3 times during 2016 and see how that goes. But because of all the other people that we pull in and the other agencies that we pull in and all the people that we get to help us with the training so that the volunteers can meet them and they can talk about their services and exactly what their agency does, it takes a lot to coordinate that to get the 30 hours and to get everybody in. So for 2016, we're hoping to do our first training probably towards the beginning of the year. We always shoot for February, and then we usually end up in March or April. we never quite make it in February. But that's kind of what we'll be looking ahead for. And so that when we come back, because we're getting ready to take a break here, 8 minutes goes fast, doesn't it? Yeah. So when we come back, then we'll talk with Gail a little bit more about her training experience and what all she did and what all the training involves. But just to remind you that if you want to get involved, some simple ways to get a hold of my office. My telephone number is 317-776-0480. I believe it's up on your screen. And my email address is attyshell@att.net. You can always send me an email. Even if we don't have training going on right now, if you send me an email and say, I'm interested in learning more about the program, then my assistant can send you some information. We can add you to the list so that when we do training, we'll be sure and notify you. So after our break, we'll be back.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid-back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
Welcome back to the Gal for Kids show. My name is Shelley Haymaker. Remembered it this time. I'm the director of the Hamilton County Gal CASA program here in your fine county. And we'd like to thank our sponsors, Jim Wofford of the Wofford Theater, which is where we are at today taping, and Logan Street Signs and Banners, which is connected just a few doors down here at the Wofford Theater. So thank you so much for sponsoring our show and letting us come on so that we can educate the community about what it is that we do, so that when you see us around and you see these shirts and you see this logo and you hear about a gal or a CASA, it's starting to make more sense. That's the whole goal of this show, so that you understand that there is this little program in your county that works hard in the courts for children that are alleged to be abused or neglected. So we were here today talking with Miss Gail Rubisch-Hawkey. She's one of the volunteers that has so graciously volunteered her time to come in and do what we are asking you to do and to think about doing. And so we were talking about that she has a full-time business and works many, many hours. She wouldn't even tell us how many hours approximately she works a week because it's so many. So, but she also finds time from her week to take time to advocate for kids. So I do want to kind of go through now. I'm guessing, but I don't know for sure, but you have some college experience, correct?
I have an MSW, which means I have a master's in social work,
All right.
which makes this probably a very easy step or a good fit for the skill sets that I have to share with the kids.
Okay. But what we want to make sure that you understand,
So not
everybody has a master's in social work that comes through a program of volunteers. Not everybody has a college education that comes through the program of volunteers. Not everybody has any kind of education in children or child law or child behaviors. Nothing like that. None of that is required for you to come through and volunteer. So what is required, though? You might be asking. If that's not required, what is? Well, you have to be at least 21 years of age to come through and be a volunteer. You have to submit, when you decide that this is what you want to do, you have to submit to a criminal background check. We go out on the national level and we have a company do that. They also do child protection background checks, so that, of course, if you're working with kids, you're going to be subjected to those types of background checks. You have to complete the training that we offer, which is the 32-hour training that we do a few times per year. And you have to be committed to remaining on a case from beginning to end. And do you remember going through your training in 2014?
I didn't.
And do you remember me harping on, if you take a case, we really want you to see this case through to the
All
end?
to the end.
And do you remember, so you can educate our audience, why?
It's the continuity that you have. Oftentimes, and even in the cases I've been involved with, the DCS worker has changed 1, 2, sometimes 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So the only continuity really for that child is the gal.
And that's what's so important. And so that's why we ask you that if you're going to go through the training and you're going to say, I want to be a volunteer, then we say, you have to understand that your case may go a month, it may go an entire year, it might even go longer than that. So you have to be prepared if you say, I want to commit to this child and to this case, that your case could go for quite a long time. So since you've been in the program, how many cases have you had to work?
There have been 5 assigned to me,
Okay.
or I have elected to take on. 1 was dismissed early, and so now I have 4 active cases.
So when she says dismissed early, so she got the case, and how long were you on the case, approximately?
Maybe a couple weeks.
So a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple weeks, and she was out. So that commitment that you made to the child, that was a short commitment. All right. Now the other cases that you're involved on, the 4 that you have.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How long have you been involved in those cases?
The first one I was assigned, I'm still on. The second one that I was assigned, I'm still on, and then the other two are recent.
Okay.
So
So when you say the other cases that you're still on, how long ago were you assigned those cases?
probably November, and then maybe January.
Okay, so November of 2014,
Mhm.
January earlier this year.
Correct.
So you've had those cases for several months.
Very long.
And is there any end in sight for those cases quite yet?
It looks like there are two court cases coming up in December, and hopefully there'll be some kind of resolution to the cases.
Okay.
But since I'm not the one to get to say that, it's really up to the judge.
That's right. Because what we do is we come along and Gail can talk about some of the stuff that she does, and we'll talk about that probably in our last section. But the only thing that we do, we make recommendations to the judge on what we think are in the child's best interest and how we think the judge, some services that the judge could provide for the child, or some information that the judge needs to know about the child, so that when the judge is making the decision about if the case is still open, what happens to the child, the judge makes those decisions. We make no decisions, do we?
Okay.
We just make recommendations based on our training and our experience and our work with the family and our work with the child. Then we make various recommendations to the judge on what we think should happen in that case. And we make our recommendations right along with the Department of Child Services. They're making recommendations to the judge as well. Parents have attorneys typically. They're making recommendations to the judge as well, and then the judge is the one who makes the final decision as to what's going to happen for this particular case. So when you say possibly December, that one of your cases could, so it will have gone for an entire year.
Easily.
Okay. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. Her commitments have been from just a few weeks to an entire year. She has been this advocate for this child. The child has not had to learn any other advocate, not had to meet any other guardian ad litem for this child. The child knows when Gail shows up, this is my guardian ad litem. And what Gail was saying earlier is the Department of Child Services, a lot of times their caseworkers will shift gears and take on different responsibilities at the department, so that they're not the caseworker for the child anymore. They might leave, they might go to other departments. So this child that we're advocating for might have 2, 3, 4 caseworkers that they've had to meet, new people that they've had to meet along the way. But then they've had Gail every single time, every single month, and through every court case. Gail has been their advocate. So that's what we really emphasize for training and when you go through this. So when we come back, we'll talk about your training and what all that you do and what all you learned from training and what else you didn't learn from training that she had to learn on the job, okay, because that's important too. But just to remind you, my telephone, 317-776-0480. And you can get a hold of me. You can email me your interest at attyshell@att.net. And just let me know that you're interested. We will add you to the list so that we make sure that we notify you when our training is in 2016. And we will be back to finish up. Thank you.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage. Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
Welcome back to the last segment. See, these go quick, don't they, Gail?
Very
When you're talking, it goes like that. So this is the last segment of our second show of the Gal for Kids. And we'd like to thank our sponsors, Jim Wofford of the Wofford Theater and Logan Street Signs and Banners, who are kind enough to sponsor us and let us come on the air to talk about what it is that we do. And we've been sitting here today, and I've been talking with Miss Gail Rubisch-Hawkey. She's one of the volunteers through the Hamilton County Gal CASA program. I think I would have that down after being the director for so many years. But she's here to talk to you about how that you can volunteer and how you can work a full-time job and volunteer and still handle everything. So let's talk a little bit more, Gail. You went through training we talked about in 2014. And when we train, the training was 30 hours. Remember that?
I do.
Lots of evenings over a 3-week span.
Correct.
Were you about ready to kill us by the time training was over?
No, I really was always informative. It was always interesting. There was an interesting selection of people who were looking to get involved, and so it's interesting to see who wants to be
That's
part
you
of the meeting.
people. It's the interesting people out there watching and listening, the interesting selection of people wanting to get involved. Yeah, she's talking about you.
So, and it was a diversity of ages and population. So it was part of Hamilton. It was like, young and old, different ethnicities, just wanting to get involved with kids in the community.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we didn't bore you too badly, because 30 hours is a long time to train. So, when we do our training, just a little bit about what it is that we try to train on. We teach about advocating in the court system here in Hamilton County and advocating for kids and advocating for their best interests. We discuss cultural diversity and concept of minimum sufficient level of care, because a lot of us aren't used to that concept of what a minimum level of care for children would be. We bring in representatives from the Department of Child Services so that they can come in and meet you and talk with you, because we work very closely with them on every single case. There is somebody from the department that works that case, and we work it too, so we are always dealing with somebody from the department. We bring in at training representatives from the probation department and our Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office, one of our Hamilton County prosecutors, deputy prosecutors that works in the juvenile division. We bring in, we go to the courthouse and we meet the judge, the magistrate who hears the majority of these cases here in our county, and he has an opportunity to meet the volunteers and tell them what he's looking for when we're doing our work. And we talk about how to conduct interviews of parents and children and various people that are involved in the children's lives. So we talk about a lot of different things. When we did the training, Gail, when you left, 30 hours was done, you came in for your interview with me, I said, so are you ready to take a case? And you said, sure.
Absolutely.
So you get this first case. Tell the audience sort of like how the training helped you going into that first case, and then you can tell them how it didn't help you.
I was going to say, the training gives you a nice kind of an outline. It provides you, and the book is huge, so it's 4-5 inches of paper, some of which is extremely helpful, and some of it kind of reiterates itself. But it's enough so that you have at least a basis. And then you do get to meet the different people in the system. I think what happens is it gives you an idea of the new language. So in any time you transition from, say, insurance, you have insurance speak, and then you have social service speak, and then you have legal speak. So you have to get used to the specific terminology and how every process is different.
That's good.
So it's so it does give you at least an idea, but sometimes you have to refer back and go, okay, how does this work again? And then the nice thing that whenever you're never alone.
Right.
So if I have a question, I have an attorney that's on the case with me, or I have Shelley that I can call and say, okay, this is what's happening. Please explain. How do I, how does this fit in the order of the process?
Well, and I think that, I mean, you bring up a good point, because I think what's important for the community to understand is that you're not in this alone.
Mm-hmm.
We don't train you and then say, go forth and advocate, and we'll see you in court. So we train you, and then what's unique about Hamilton County, and what I think is great about Hamilton County, the more I do this and the more I get out and I train in other counties and see what it's like, is that for every single advocate that we have, every single one of you that come in and volunteer, you are represented by an attorney. So you're never going at this alone. Your attorney is there with you. Your attorney is there to answer questions. You can email your attorney, call your attorney, make an appointment with your attorney, go in and talk to them. When you're lost on something or you're not quite sure what to do next, you have an attorney to talk to. Mm-hmm. When you show up in court, you don't know which room to go in, or once you get into the room, where to sit. You have an attorney that shows you, come sit with me.
Sit next to me.
And I think that's what makes us very unique here in the county, is that you are not alone, and you can ask for help at any time. Now, we don't micromanage you, though, do we?
Definitely not.
So even though I say there's help, we're not over you with our thumb, making sure that you're talking to this person and doing this. We're letting you work your case,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And I think maybe that's when you're looking at volunteer opportunities, you do need to be a self-starter. I mean, you get a case, you get not a lot of information.
Because we don't have a lot.
Because
right.
it basically,
don't blame me for this.
This is nothing you get. You
Just
get
the
a
beginning.
package of information about the kids, about the family, the situation, and then it's up to you to really sort through where is everybody and who's involved with that child. And then
who's mom and
where is she?
Who's dad and where is he? Mm-hmm. And if there are more than one child, do they all have the same dad, or are there different dads that you need to talk to and
Absolutely.
find out where they are, right?
So you have to be a little bit of a Rockford, I guess, just to kind of sort through the, who's on first and who's on second, and where are the kids at the end of the day, and who's taking care of them, and are they in a safe place.
And your attorney helps with that, I think, a lot of times. And then your attorney at least is helpful with who at the department can you call,
Mm-hmm.
Department of Child Services, because then the caseworker there knows where's the child,
Absolutely.
who's the child living with, and they can get, at that point, they get the volunteer in touch with or give you information on how to get a hold of the child, right? So real quick before we have to end, when you took your first case, what did you miss in training? What did we not cover that all of a sudden you had to learn? Was there any one specific thing that you can think
Not
of?
so much. Again,
Okay.
sometimes it has to do with, I guess, the language, or what people assume you should know, especially DCS workers who assume that you know all of their terminology.
Mm-hmm.
But you
And their
have to-
initials, because
Oh, yeah,
initials,
exactly.
and I never know initials. I'm always like,
So-
what's that mean?
Yeah, and so you kind of have to ask them and make sure that you understand what that means and how their process works. But other than that, your training does give you, like I said, a nice basis of information. You have paper that you can go back to if you need to make referrals.
And we talk about that in training, because I say in the middle of training, get a sticky note and mark this down, because later you're going to want to come back to this and look at this. Right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, Gail, thank you for coming along and showing our community how you can work full-time and still have time to advocate for kids. And we will be back in December, third Tuesday of the month. We will be here at 11 o'clock. So we hope to see you then. Thank you.
Thank you.